Hello everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to another video in my Halloween card series. I'm using a stamp from the Sweet Stamp shop called Apples, which they released last year. I'm also using a stitch square die from Simon Says Stamp to make a 5x5 top folding card. So here I'm just using my Stampaholic Nano to stamp out the image. I am using cold press watercolor paper, and it took me a couple times here to make sure that I got it nice and crisp how I wanted it. So I'm going to be using distress markers today to color these images. And first of all, I'm using a really light, mostly water wash, just to get the image nice and wet so that the color moves easily and there's no streaking. So at the end of the video, I do have a picture of the distress markers that I used today, but I will go through and tell you which ones I used for the images as well. So for the red apple, I used barn door and fired brick. And then for the green apple, I used shabby shutters, mowed lawn, and peeled paint. And for both of them, I also brought in some brown just to kind of darken them up and give them dimension. So for the caramel, I used wild honey, brushed corduroy, and tea dye. And so just using lightest to darkest as I go, building up the layers and making them darker with each layer that I do. I actually spent a lot of time on this image, probably more than I needed to, but because I started out so light, it took me a little while to get it up to a nice dark dimensional image. So for this stick, I used Vintage Photo and Walnut Stain, and I'm going to be coloring those up here momentarily. I think I'm just putting some brown in the apples now, just to give them a little bit of depth and to make them not so shiny. Because it's Halloween, I wanted them to kind of have a darker kind of look to them. So then I'm going to do a little bit of some wash with, I think I used the Vintage Photo for this, and so I put some in the speech bubble that says the stick goes where, which cracks me up every time. And then I wanted to put some here so that I could ground the images so that it didn't look like they were just hanging kind of on the paper in the air. So just darkening that up again, and then I think I'm almost ready here to move on to creating the card. So before I do that, I am going to use a white gel pen and just put a little highlight on the red apple and then some white spots on the caramel, and on the green and red apple I'm going to do some dots on their cheeks as well, just to give them a little bit of something extra. So here's the papers I'm going to be using. I have no idea what collection this is from. I got it from a Halloween swap one year. It looks to me like it might be Pebbles or crepe paper, but I'm not 100% sure. So I wanted to make a bow. I had just gotten these bow dies recently. This is the Lawn Fawn Put a Bow on It. So I wanted to make one and put it on the card. So to make the tail of the bow, it's really important if you want to use the bow kind of down as hanging little tassels, you need to make sure it's double-sided paper. So I just cut out 2 of those and glued them together so that when I construct the bow, there is pattern paper facing frontwards. So I'm also going to just cut off, I think I ended up doing about 1/2 inch of a border, so it looks like the ribbon that the bow will sit on. So I'm going to adhere that down. I love that boo paper. I thought it was really cute because the sentiment on the card says Halloween scary even for apples. So I thought it was really sweet that the paper had boo all over it, kind of like they were scaring each other sort of thing. So I'm just going to adhere the paper down using some Scotch Quick Dry adhesive, and this just allows me a little bit of time to get it on the card base evenly. So that worked actually pretty well. Sometimes I have to struggle with it, but I actually got it lined up the first time I put it down. And now I'm going to construct the bow. So I just want to use a pencil here just so that the bow kind of sits nicely with rounded sides, and so it pops up a little. And I'm going to use some Zing bling dots to adhere the bow together. These things are amazing. I love them. I think I say it every time I use them, but they're so super sticky, and they just make it really easy when you have smaller images, when you don't want to use a tape adhesive. So there's the bow, and I think it looks really cute just like that. I kind of almost wish I'd left it like that. What I forgot to do when I put the ribbon piece of paper was to measure where the bow ties would hang down, and I should have had it up a little bit higher. So I thought about cutting it, and then I was like, no, I can just put the bow up a little bit higher. So you can see there, instead of placing it right on the green strip, I'm just going to place it a little above, and then that gives me the space to put the bow ties hanging down. So I'm just going to press my pencil in there so that the bling dots adhere to the bottom of the card. And then I decided to use some foam adhesive for the inside of the bow there. So I'm using my quick stick tool to stick that in, and I just thought if I was going to mail this card, then the bow would still, it wouldn't flatten totally, and plus it keeps it in place. So now I'm just going to adhere the image onto the front of the card, and I'm using some foam adhesive as well. Given that there's dimension in the bow, I thought I might as well put dimension on the image. So I'm going to get that done, and then I'm going to move to the inside of the card. And for the inside of the card, so first of all, I'm going to put some rhinestones on there. I'm trying to use up stuff in my stash, so I had these green ones that matched with that green plaid paper perfectly, so I stuck some of those on the front. And then I'm going to move to the inside of the card, and I'm going to use a wonky stitch die from My Favorite Things, as well as an old CC Designs sentiment stamp that was designed by Amy R. of Paper Prairie and Ink. I'm sure you know her if you are a card maker or like watching card videos. So I'm going to use the sentiment, "You're Terrorific," and I thought that was cute for the inside. Now, the rectangle that I chose is a little bit too big, but the small one was too small. So I just had to remove the foam on the inside of that because it is a red rubber stamp. And then I'm just going to simply adhere this to the inside of the card, and the inside of the card will then be done. I thought it would be nice to put it on the matching paper to bring an element of the front of the card to the inside of the card. I could have just stamped it on the white cardstock, but I thought that this just gave it a little something extra. And so the card is finished. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.